Welcome back to the Keep It Kula Podcast. My name is Jaclyn, and today I am welcomed by former MLB catcher, almost turned football quarterback, a man with the best socks in sport media, fellow Canadian and Blue Jays analyst, Joe Siddall. Welcome to the show, Joe. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
Well, Jacqueline, that was pretty nice right there. Quite an intro. You brought back some memories when you dropped the little football bomb right there. That's going back a lot of years.
I do want to talk about that right away because yeah, you went pro as an MLB catcher, but there was a chance that you're going to be a football quarterback. How did you choose to go towards the baseball road instead of going to college and playing football?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to abbreviate it as much as I can. A lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations back and forth. I played high school football. I played football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then baseball in the spring through the summer with my summer league teams. But when football ended my last year in high school, and my football coach was on the backfield after practice one day, and back then, and we're going back a long time, I graduated high school in '85, and it's not like I was playing any sport at all to play at the next level or to go pro or anything like that. In fact, my plan was to go to the University of Windsor. I went to Assumption High School here in Windsor, Ontario. It's literally in the backyard of Assumption High School. That's where I was planning on going to pursue my post-secondary studies and hopefully play football at the University of Windsor. And my football coach, Jeff Owen, on the backfield one day after practice, latter part of the season, said, "What would you think about going to play football in the States if the school wanted to offer you a scholarship?" And I kind of like I said, honestly, I was so naive at the time. I was like, "No, I don't know. Sounds good. Whatever. What are you talking about?" So a coach came over. Apparently they had seen some of our games. They had seen a couple of players on my team, but they had noticed me as well. So as the story goes, they offered me a full ride football scholarship. They come over to my house to meet my parents and explain what this is all about. So I jumped at it. I got a chance to go play college football in the U.S. I was a quarterback. It was Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And when I went there, I was redshirted as a freshman. So it means you don't play it all. You do all the practicing. You do everything. Don't travel to the road games. Dress for the home games. So pretty cool. Got the college football experience in the NCAA over there in the Mid-American Conference. The season ended, latter part before the school year ended, a baseball coach contacted me in my dorm, literally called my telephone on the wall in my dorm room and asked me if I was coming up for the baseball team. And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'd love to, but when you're on a full ride football scholarship, they kind of own you. They kind of tell you what to do, and spring football is a big deal." The whole month of April was spring football, and it culminated with what we had was the maroon and gold game for the Central Michigan University Chippewas. I was the quarterback for one team. The guy quarterbacking the other team was a year older than me because the previous season was a senior quarterback and he was graduating. So it was going to probably be between the two of us to duke it out for the starting spot. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the game was fairly uneventful. I think we both just did okay. Nobody stood out, nothing big. I went home, played summer baseball like I always had. And it was late July, toward the end of the summer, and I get a call from a local baseball scout saying the Montreal Expos are hosting a local clinic, and just hope to come on out. They invited me out, bring a couple buddies, and I'm like, sure, something to do during the day. We probably had a game that night. That's what you do when you're probably, 18, 19 at the time. Sure. Went out and apparently had a good couple of days because they offered me a professional baseball contract. And it was I was floored because I was kind of like literally saying, what does this entail? And I said, well, you'd be coming down to instructional league and in a few weeks and professional baseball and how it works. And I said, well, I've got to be back to school in like 2 weeks. The middle of August was going to be classes starting and 2-a-day football practices were starting up. And he said, no, on the other end of the phone. He's like, maybe we need to talk to your parents. So they took us out for dinner, explained how it all works. So I think I took about a week to really kind of mull over this decision.
Wow.
Now, nice problem to have, I know. It's
very nice.
Pursue professional baseball or stay in school on a full ride football scholarship and maybe have a shot even to play baseball there, maybe my senior year. So it was tough. At that time, it was before Canadians had to go through the draft in baseball. So I think after all of the conversations I had with people and discussions and weighing the pros and cons, I think what it was more than anything was if I wanted a shot to play professional baseball, I really thought that might be the only one. And I jumped at it. I've always said baseball is my first love, but I've also contradicted myself by saying whatever is in season was what I loved the most. But the problem with the whole process here is I had to contact the school and I had to contact my coach to say, I'm not coming back. And it didn't go well. I called my positions coach, the backfield coach, He was on the phone with me for 15 minutes telling me what a mistake I was making, how I'd never get my education, and how, the chance to make him to the major leagues are slim and none. He puts me on the phone with our head coach, same song and dance, and I'm on the other end of the phone just sweating profusely. I've told the story a million times for people that have heard it, but it was a very uncomfortable phone call for me. Yeah. He puts me on the phone then after 15, 20 minutes with the athletic director of the university. Same thing. So this is a long phone call. I am sweating profusely through my shirt and feeling like I just made the worst decision in my life. And every time I talked to a different individual, it was like I wasn't calling to ask them their opinion. I was calling them to tell them, like, I had made my decision. I won't be there in 2 weeks when you're expecting me. I think the worst part about a decision like that for me, I mean, I was young. I wasn't even 20 years old yet, but I felt like I was letting people down. I felt so bad. I felt so guilty. And, to this day, it's not in my character, I don't think. But to this day, I still suggest to people, unfortunately, sometimes you got to think about me. And it doesn't even sound right coming out of my mouth because it doesn't feel right. But that's what I did there. It was selfish. I was thinking about me. And it worked out pretty well. And all is good at Central Michigan. When I got called up to the big leagues with the Detroit Tigers, of course, I got a big old 8x10 letter from the head coach of the university, and they were extremely proud. So I think it was all good.
Wow, what a story. Really betting on yourself there and really taking a chance. And you said like you didn't really see yourself necessarily playing professionally with anything. What did you see yourself doing as a career?
I was going to probably be a high school teacher. That was just something that I could see myself working with kids, working with teenagers, teaching at the high school level, and of course, probably coaching teams. Sports has been a big part of my life since I was very little, and I was one of those, like a lot of kids. I mean, we play a lot of sports. Grade school sports are all very accessible to us. We're very fortunate where we grew up. It was volleyball and basketball and soccer and cross country and track and whatever it was. And I'm a big proponent of that. And whenever I do talk to kids, I really encourage them to play a variety of sports. I think it was the greatest thing that I ever did because it didn't allow me to get burned out in anything. Like I loved baseball all summer, but as soon as it ended, when we got to the high school level, especially, that's when I started playing football. Football was there. And like literally when the football season ended, whether we won the championship or whether we got eliminated, the next day I was in the gym to basketball tryouts and hoping to make the basketball team. And that's what I did my entire high school career. So I really encourage that. It's hard. And I know, especially in some of the sports now where they so much time and energy, it's almost mandated of young kids. And it's just too bad in a way, because I really feel like the better overall well-being of the individual, and that's the kid, him or herself, it's best to do a variety.
Definitely. Yeah. I grew up kind of playing everything: ice hockey, basketball, softball, a little bit of flag football, then started coaching, and now I play a lot of tennis as a 23-year-old. Thank you. You mentioned how, it's great as an athlete to play a bunch of sports, but you've also mentioned before how it makes you a better person playing many different sports. Why is that? Why does it build that kind of character, playing a variety of sports instead of sticking to just one sport?
Doing it in your youth is one thing, but I think my point is hammered home as you get a little bit older, because now you get to high school and then especially college and then the pro ranks that I went through in baseball. I'm playing with guys from all over the world. And I was supposedly the big fish in this local community that got the pro contract, but I'll be honest with you, I had friends that were every bit as good as me. I still to this day don't know why it was me that got selected from that camp, because they signed me out of that camp, and that wasn't the norm back then. They would usually host these camps all over Canada, and they would just grab a few from each camp, and then they'd invite them to Montreal to Olympic Stadium to try to then possibly sign somebody. But once you get to professional ranks, I'm playing with guys from all over the world, and it's from Latin America, throughout the Caribbean and Mexico and Asia, everywhere. And when you have teammates from all over the world and all of those different cultures, it allows you to, and I say that is a privilege. I was very fortunate to be able to learn about a lot of other people and cultures in the world. Now, I'd still say at a young age, because now I'm just in my early 20s, and that really helped. But I think even too in your grade school years, like even as young kids, and I went through it as a parent as well, your kids there are going to be days when you don't get along with that guy or that girl. There are going to be days you don't get along with your teacher or your principal.
Yeah.
Those are things that happen, but all of those different things that you're confronted with, they present different challenges and adversities. And I mean, there's nothing better in life than having to battle some adversity, because I think it builds character in all of us. And I've also told young kids, you're not going to love every teacher you have. You're not going to love every coach you have. And guess what? When you're in the working world one day, you might not love every boss that you have. That's just life. But it doesn't mean you can just quit and not play, not do it, because there are times when you're going to have to. So just character building all over to me growing up and being so involved in sport.
Definitely. Yeah, going with the Expos there, as a Canadian, was that like a dream come true kind of playing for a Canadian team, or would have been a little nicer to be playing with the Tigers or early on, considering you're a Windsor guy?
People always ask me that question about, playing with the Expos and then playing with the Tigers and what was it. But the way you just worded that, the first thing I just thought of, I don't think I've ever been asked that question, that first opportunity being with the Montreal Expos. And I mean, I have to be honest with you, it's not like when I was that age, my dream was to play for the Detroit Tigers. Like, it wasn't a reality. It was just that I would never even thought of that back then. Remember now, I think over you look back, maybe the last 20 years now, where youth sport has gone and the exposure to pro teams and kids getting opportunities to be drafted and all. But signing with the Expos it was just awesome because I was signing a pro contract. I think the fact that it was with a Canadian team, the Expos, was pretty cool. I had a little tryout thing with the Blue Jays at Exhibition Stadium, and apparently it didn't go very well because I didn't get offered a contract. But I think signing with the Expos, and more importantly than anything, was the dream come true, was getting called up to the big leagues. And that's a dream for any minor league baseball player. And when you start out, that's what you want. Very cool, though, that it happened to be the Expos. And when I go back, I was called up in Pittsburgh. It was Three River Stadium where I made my debut in Pittsburgh back then. But my first major league hit came in Montreal as an Expo at the Big O, standing ovation, the whole bit. Very cool. And then to put a little cherry on top, my first and only major league home run was in a Detroit Tigers uniform in the old Tiger Stadium. So I guess I covered them both in terms of dreams coming true. If I had them as a kid, those probably would have been them, and they came true. Pretty cool.
Those are pretty awesome dreams. Yeah, I grew up with the Jays from Toronto, but my parents are both from Montreal, and my grandfather had season tickets to watch the Expos every year. So just knowing that you were a part of that team that he watched, and my mom got to skip school to go and watch sometimes is pretty awesome, and possibly even saw you there. Being in the MLB, what was that first game like, playing with the Expos and, having that standing ovation and kind of seeing all of this craziness happen in front of you where, you were someone who was going to become a teacher to now playing in front of the biggest stage in sports?
Yeah, I think when I look back, when the way you worded that, there were a few events there. The first one is getting called up, because that's the day everyone waits for. Well, I was playing in AAA Ottawa. I wasn't even the everyday guy at the time. I wasn't even playing the day I got called up. I was down in the bullpen, warming guys up. We lost an extra inning game, and my manager was Mike Quaddy in Ottawa. And after the game, Ottawa's clubhouse was a big clubhouse. The manager had to walk through the clubhouse to get to his office, which was down the next hall. I'm at my locker. Everybody just come in. We lost an extra inning. So usually when that happens, the clubhouse is pretty quiet, not a lot of happy faces. And he had a bit of a temper in the first place. We always called him the mood ring guy. He's either really happy or not good, and you don't want to get on his bad side. And all that being said, I did love him as a manager. But he's walked through the clubhouse, and he's got this growl-looking face, and he looked right at me, and he gave me one of these, like, come here, like, follow me. And I'm like, what did I do? I didn't even play that night. Like, what, did I warm up somebody poorly in the bullpen? Did I not have a pitcher ready? I go into his office. Right behind me becomes Gil Heredia, one of our veteran pitchers. And he sits back in his chair, and he puts his feet up on the desk. He folds his arms, and he says, you guys are going to the big leagues tomorrow. And I kid you not, Jaclyn, I think my body just started tingling. I don't know what it was. And I just said, yeah, right. Like, what do you want us for? I knew he was going to discipline us. I thought Gil was a veteran guy. I was kind of a veteran guy at the time. Maybe we're going to speak on behalf of the team. He said, no, I'm serious. You guys are going to the big leagues. You'll be on a flight in the morning to Pittsburgh. And I don't know if I teared up or if I welled up or if I just, whatever it was. That's the ultimate for a minor league baseball player. That's the notice and the word that you dream of. That's why you play the game, is to get to the big leagues. So pretty cool. Debuted at Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh, and guys had told me when I got called up, a couple of the veteran guys, and even some of the younger guys that were up there, they're saying, hey, dude, be ready, because Felipe Alou was the manager. He said when he calls guys up, he likes to get them in the action, so be ready. And it wasn't the day I got there. I think it was the next day. But not only do I get in the game late, but I get in extra innings.
Oh, boy.
So that was – but at the same time, you talk about being tested. Now, I got it put in the game defensively. That was my strength. I felt comfortable as a catcher, not so much as a hitter. But Felipe was my manager in 1990 in the Florida State League in A-ball in West Palm Beach, Florida. Now he's the manager of the big league club in 93 when I got called up. And to this day, I'm forever grateful to him because I think he had a lot to do with that. He liked me behind the plate. He trusted me defensively, trusted me handling the game. That's why I got called up. That's why I got thrown into an extra inning game. So yeah, all that was pretty cool. And then I think it was a couple of days later that I got my first major league hit. That was back in Montreal, Frank Tanana, the veteran Frank Tanana, at the end of his career. But pretty cool. Yeah, those three instances, I can remember them all pretty vividly.
Wow. What motivated you to kind of keep on going, as a minor league guy and just, being a veteran in it and then getting called up and kind of, not getting your shot right away? What was the motivation to kind of keep on going there?
Well, I have a very supportive wife, Jaclyn. I always say that she supported my baseball habit.
Yeah.
My sixth season, I got to the big leagues. And back then, it was kind of the norm. We're seeing players kind of just jump through the minor leagues pretty fast. Now it's a little bit different, especially pitchers. But when I got there, I knew getting there was awesome, but I knew staying there was going to be even tougher. And that's the old adage. Getting to the big leagues is one thing, but staying there is a completely other thing. And my wife is a physician here in Windsor. She graduated from the University of Toronto. So she quite literally was able to take care of ourselves financially. I didn't have to worry about going to work construction in the winter, when I was home in the off season or doing all those things. So I was very fortunate to have that. We ended up having 4 kids. So by the time, when you ask about that perseverance, I didn't have too many injuries I had to deal with. More than anything, it was about family. And getting to the big leagues was great, but it got to a point. I got to the big leagues 4 times, and no complaints there. Pretty awesome. Last year, I went to spring training. It was the year 2000, and I was a minor league free agent in the offseason after playing with Detroit for parts of 2 seasons in AAA in the big leagues. And it was to a point where it's like we just had our 4th child in 99. I was like, this is a lot. It's a lot for her, that, back and forth, coming to visit, and I wasn't able to get home a ton, especially when I was with the Tigers. I was very fortunate because Toledo was about an hour and some change from here. So I would commute and live at home. That was great. But I was let go, and I thought, this will be my time to see if someone contacts me. If the team contacts me, I'll say it's meant to be, and I'll give it one more shot. If not, that'll be it. Well, first day I'm a minor league free agent, I got a call from the Boston Red Sox. So they invited me to make big league camp, veteran guy. They want to have him around, his insurance and all. So I did that, but it got to be around June, and there was myself and another veteran guy. We were kind of splitting time, and I'm talking on the phone with my wife most nights, and I'm just thinking, this is getting to the point where even the dream of a call up to Boston in September, which is what you're after, the fire wasn't there. It's like I was thinking it more as that's going to be another month away from home. And that's what made me think right there that it's like, okay, what are we doing this for? Could I have kept playing? Sure. I was 33. I think I probably could have played for another few years easily. But family was number one. And I think especially all the sacrifices they had to make, especially my wife, up until that point, I was just thinking, what am I doing here? I'm probably not good enough to be that everyday major leaguer. It'd be easier if you're an everyday major leaguer, like every year you're playing in the big leagues. But I was like AAA, maybe call up, AAA, maybe call up. And I want to say that got a bit old, but it gets old when you have a family, especially a family at home that my wife can support us while I get back on track and do what I do. But more importantly than anything, just to be home full time for her, but also for the kids. And I retired in the middle of June. It was early June. We finally pulled the plug, and I went to the ballpark. We were playing in AAA Pawtucket Red Sox. And I went into the ballpark early that day, around 2:30, to tell my manager, Gary Jones, that's it. I'm taking it to the house. Great career. I'm out. Well, I get to the ballpark. Nobody else there. He's in his office, but the lineup's posted, and I'm in the lineup. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to play this off. I rerouted away from his office. I'm just going to play this off. I'm going to play my last game. And we're going to go into the office after the game. So I play the game, but the problem was Tomo Oka, if you remember that name, Tomokazu Oka, pitcher, I think he pitched for the Blue Jays briefly too, throws a perfect game. I caught a perfect game. And then I'm thinking, I can't go in there and retire now. Everybody's celebrating, people jumping all over the field. The celebration spills into the clubhouse. So I finally I'm sitting back kind of like relishing in all this, but I'm not saying anything. So I waited till the next day, and I came in a little bit earlier before the lineup was posted, and that was it. I went home, and I I had some offers to manage and coach in the minor leagues and all, but I told most of them that that's why I'm going home, is to be home more. And funny part is, ultimately, I did stay in the game a little bit because I ended up working with the Tigers, just helping them with batting practice for years. So it was a nice way of staying involved in the game. But I think when I stopped playing, it just turned out to be perfect because the kids were just getting out of school in the end of June. We had a wonderful summer. It was just great timing. Funny, you just kind of know sometimes, and I think we knew.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys out there may have just stuck it out because of, maybe ego purposes or just, that's their dream. But sometimes your dreams change, and I think that's really important for people to know that it doesn't always have to be this certain way that people think that you need to live. It's the way that you want to live, and you end up coming back to baseball, and hearing you on TV and talking to you, it's like I would think that this was your goal your whole life, was to be an analyst, was to be on TV, because the fact that this wasn't even a goal of yours or a thought for a while is amazing. And what was that like, kind of now especially just being a part of baseball again, but being a face of baseball and a member and one of the biggest names in Blue Jays community?
It's crazy, Jaclyn. I'm sure you've read and people have heard of how my story happened, but I was not looking at getting in broadcasting at all. In fact, I was just doing the Tigers thing, and it was great. Doing the Tigers thing allowed me to just go over there in the afternoon, like on a Tuesday, 7 p.m. game. I'd head over around 2:30, run in the clubhouse, put my uniform on, go down the cage, throw a little BP, help guys in the cage, do all the prep pregame stuff. And literally when BP ended at like 5:30, I'd run off the field, back to the clubhouse, put my clothes on, run out, and I was racing back over the border to coach one of my daughter or son's teams games, sometimes changing into my uniform in the car to go coach their teams. And I ended up doing it for like 12 years. It was crazy. Wow. So our youngest son, Kevin, passed away at the age of 14. That was in 2014. So he got sick late 13 there, and that's when I just left the team. And it was not long. It was unfortunately just 6 months, so it happened fast. But after that, so February, I get an email from Jerry Howarth. Now, I knew Jerry Howarth because he was the radio voice of the Blue Jays and working with the Tigers doing the batting practice thing. Whenever the Blue Jays came to town, I would say hello to him. It's not like we were friends or I knew him or anything, just a quick little exchange pleasantries. And I get an email from Jerry Howarth. I think he got my number from Bob Elliott or my email address, and he just dropped me a line of condolences, just an email of condolences. Very nice, as Jerry is at everything. And I remember replying and just saying, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you too when the Blue Jays come to Detroit in June or whatever. And then at the very end of my email, I just added a line. To this day, I don't know what the wording is, but I think it was like, or maybe in the broadcast booth one day. And I didn't mean it like to me as a broadcaster. I meant because he's a broadcaster. Like I meant nothing by it. It's bizarre, but I'm sure he would tell you to this day, whoa. And he immediately, I got a reply in like a couple of minutes because Jack Morris had just finished or just decided to leave. He finished 1 year, I think, in the radio booth for the Blue Jays. So he replied to me, how about right now? And I was like, what is going on here? So crazy how it happened. He put me in line with the program director, and they got talking to me. They asked me if I could make it down to spring training. I remember going on with Jeff Blair because Jeff was a writer for the Montreal Gazette, I believe, when I played with the Expos. And he's hosting the Jeff Blair show at the time. Well, the program director said, we'd like to have you on. I think he wanted to listen to me, see if I knew anything about baseball. And he said, we'll have you on the Jeff Blair show tomorrow. So I'm like studying Blue Jay stuff. Wow. And this is now, don't forget, this is like a week after our funeral. It was just my wife, we were in a flog. Wow. And I remember looking at her saying, like, I might have a job opportunity. And she's like, what are you talking about? So this was, I can't imagine our state of mind at the time, but I just kind of followed up with these things. So I was on with Jeff for 10 minutes or whatever, and I get a call from the program director, and he's wondering if I can come to Florida to audition, do some games. I was like, sure, whatever, when are you thinking? So we go back and forth of how this is going to work. I think they were going to try out a few different people. I go down to Florida. Actually, before I went, he calls back again and says that first the program director called me. We talked for about 30 minutes, but he, at the time, it was Don Collins. After the phone call, he said, Joe, with all that you've just been through in your family and what you and your wife, it's probably not the best time. Why don't we just sit back? Maybe we bring your wife your wife and yourself to Toronto one weekend in the summer. You can see how that all works. I knew nothing about broadcasting. Take you to the game, do whatever, kind of see what the business looks like, see if it's something you're interested in. I said, sounds good, sure. He calls me back like a few days later, and he's like, chance you can come to Florida at all? So he must have been having second thoughts. So I went and did a game with Jerry. First game was, I remember asking him too, how long should I pack for? Is this for a few days? And he said, well, how long can you come? And I remember looking at my wife and saying, you know what? This is leading to something, I think. So let's dive in head first. I said, I can be there all spring, whatever you want. I didn't care at this point. I was like, a lot of things in life didn't matter at this point. I just said, whatever you need. Mm-hmm. So I went and did the first game with Jerry, and I remember Jerry just walking. I remember this because I just mentioned it to somebody last week when they asked me this question. He taught me broadcasting 101 in about 20 minutes as a radio analyst, because he would just explain to me about when I come in with my comments, when I got to get out, make sure that you give him the chance to allow him to describe the pitcher making his delivery to the plate after it's fouled off, whatever. You can come in and chime in, whatever. Give me all the little lowdowns here and there. So we did the one game when it was at Clearwater against the Phillies. So we were at Dunedin Stadium. Blue Jays were taking BP, and we went over there. So after my little 20-minute broadcasting 101, we did a game. After the game, Jerry said, great job. Hey, awesome. I said, okay, great. Got an email from our boss and said, excellent job. Can you do tomorrow's game? I said, sure. Went again yesterday, the next game, did it. And after the game, he sent me an email and asked me to meet him for dinner. And I did. And he offered me a contract for the full schedule. And I was just like, whoa. Wow. So it all happened pretty fast. Mm-hmm. Crazy time in our lives, obviously. And here we are. I think this will be my 13th season broadcasting coming up. And I played for less than 13 years. I retired in June of my 13th season, I think. So in June, this coming June I will have been a broadcaster as long as I've been a player, which to me is bizarre because I felt like I played forever. And yeah, crazy where life takes us.
It is a crazy story, and how this all happened, and just getting, going for it in that time. And, I've read that, you've said that it really saved you kind of getting back into baseball mm-hmm. and your family, and it really shows how special this sport is and how special a lot of people are for giving you a chance in like a really tough time. So I think it really shows that, it's there's a lot of nice people out there who really want to help out someone. Yeah. And I think every Jays fan is so happy to have you a part of this this team and this community. And, every time we hear you either calling a game or in the Blue Jay Central with Madison and Jamie, it's like, we're all so happy to have you there. And you called a lot of games this year when Buck was out. You called them with Dan. Do you see that being a full-time thing? And whenever Buck kind of calls that a career, do you see yourself being side by side with Dan there?
Well, I'd certainly enjoy that for sure, and we'll see what Buck does. And first mm-hmm. and foremost, we just hope his health is okay. He's just such a wonderful person and so wonderful at what he does. And I know Blue Jays fans, for the most part, I mean, I always say as broadcasters, some people love our approach and how we do things. Some people don't. But I've always maintained, you be yourself. That's who you do best, and you don't try to be somebody you're not. And that's what I've always tried to maintain. And I think Buck is just so legendary in the Blue Jays community and as a franchise in general, that whenever his time comes, it's something I'm very interested in. Of course, it'd be a great progression to what I'm doing with Blue Jay Central, and I've really gotten a lot of opportunity the last couple of years to do more and more in the booth. Initially, it was unfortunately because Pat Tabler was let go, a dear friend of mine, a guy that's been very good to me in my career, and then now with Buck's illness, more games this year. So we'll see. I'm waiting to hear. We don't have a schedule yet for next year. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's certainly something I'm interested in. I enjoy both roles. I at times enjoy the variety of both roles. Mm-hmm. If I had to admit it, I'd probably say the booth. And the reason I say that is because it's like that passion. Mm-hmm. Probably being a former player, it's the closest thing you can get back to playing and being in the game when you're following pitch sequences and pitch to pitch and what guys are thinking, what the manager's thinking. And, going back to my Felipe Alou comment, he was somebody that was, I say he's the reason I got to the big leagues. And if you don't get that first one, you might not ever get there. No. And he was always that guy that felt like I was that manager out on the field, because you just see the game so differently from behind the plate. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel doing. I'm sure Buck does. I'm sure a lot of catchers that are in the booth feel that way, because you do see so much going on. You're going over what the manager and pitching coaches are thinking. And there's just so many cool aspects of it. So I think that's the little rush or part of the passion that I love about working games in the booth.
Yeah, definitely. How was it though? we haven't even talked about the Blue Jays in this 2025
Mm-hmm.
season. It's still, getting over this season. Thankfully, the Raptors are actually very, very good. So a lot of Toronto fans are happy again. But what was that journey like this year and getting to be in Los Angeles for the World Series? Like, what was it like being with Madison and Jamie during this journey? And also, were people in LA nice to you guys?
I think this run that the Blue Jays just made, and I'll speak for some of my colleagues because I've spoken to a few of them only, but they all feel the same way I do, Jaclyn. It's like I have not gotten into the baseball off season much at all yet. Like
Mm,
normally when I'm home
yeah.
early October, mid October, hey, November's rolling around, free agency, and we're all just, and I'm just like, I'm doing yard work. I'm going for bike rides. It's almost like recovery
Yes.
because that
Yes.
month of October, I know is crazy for fans too, but
I can imagine for you though. I can't.
I mean, geez, the things that you're thinking we've got chats planned, and all of a sudden they change because of how this inning went, and it
Crazy.
was a month of that, like edge of your seat emotion. Going to LA was phenomenal. What a great decision by our bosses to send
Loved
our
it.
crew to Los Angeles.
Loved it.
Can't thank them enough. I think our audience probably can't thank them enough because there's
100%.
nothing like being on site, especially for a World Series game. That was really cool. LA fans were great. I
Okay.
think you see a lot of Dodger jerseys, and because our set was right out in right field, as you saw,
Yeah.
and they come by and they are just hooting. Some of them maybe not so nice, but for the most part, I have fun with people like that. Like if somebody walks by in a Dodger jersey and they're just boo Blue Jays, boo, like pumping up the Dodgers, I was like, hey, what do you mean? Well, come on. So I like to have fun with them, and I'm telling you, 99% of the time, those crazy passionate fans have fun right back. And that's great. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
fun part of our job. And where our set is at the Rogers Center in Toronto. Fans
Mm,
can come by.
yeah.
Oftentimes, if we do have a minute or two, we can say hello, take some pictures. It's great. We love our fans. I think the fans love our show, and that's
100%.
cool. But it was really special to be in LA. What they did was what Sportsnet did for that. Look at the coverage. Kevin Pillar was in. We had Caleb.
Yes.
We had Hayes. We had Ben, and
Hazel, yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
was rocking. I thought obviously being part of that broadcast, but we do our segment on an hour pregame show, and then I'm watching a lot of the rest and listening, and I'm a fan, and I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, this is awesome. This is great coverage, great insights, different perspectives all around. Then we go to Dan and Buck in the booth, and then it's down on the field to
Yeah.
Arden and Ben or Shire or whatever.
Yeah.
So I liked it as much as you fans did. It was
Yeah.
great, and we feel that. I think when you're in that, we're teammates. We're all
Mm,
colleagues down there,
mhm.
and I think we probably all felt the same way that we did a pretty good job as a team at covering this World Series. And I mean, I don't know how you couldn't with the games that we had to cover, but yeah, that's an emotional month in general. Let's put it that way.
Very. What was it like being there for the 18 inning game though? Like, how did you
Um,
go through this?
it gets to a point. It's different if it's an 18 inning game in the regular season, like we used to have before the automatic runner at second
Mhm.
base. I did a couple of those as well. And those are like you're kind of just waiting for somebody to win the game.
Just some
After
exactly.
you get to the 15th, it's like somebody win this thing. Like, whatever. Right? We
Yeah.
want to go home and have dinner.
Yeah.
Actually, going way back, I forget what year that was. I was doing radio with Jerry, and it was an 18 inning game, I think. And we were flying to Seattle after the game. And it was like, I
Oh,
think my wife was with her parents at the game in Toronto, driving home. They left in the ninth or 10th inning, driving home to Windsor. I think they got to London, maybe even further, almost home. And the game wasn't over yet.
oh my
They're
gosh.
like, what is going on?
Can't
So that
believe
was
it.
great. But we flew to Seattle after that. And
Oh,
then you get out there. I just remember dragging for days after that. But yeah, it was obviously in the World Series, you're not saying just somebody win.
yeah.
You're hoping something crazy can happen. I don't know if a Dodgers outfielder falls down or something for the Blue Jays to score a run. You're just waiting for anything. And when they lost that game, I can't even remember what our post game looked like or what I sounded like. But when
Yeah.
they lost that game, I'll be honest with you, this team made you believe in them for
Yeah.
3.5, 4 months. But at that point, it's over. There's no way these human beings can recover from this. And
Mhm.
what do you know? They win the next two. Like
It's
in classic
chaos.
2025 Blue Jays form, these guys pulled off two wins, and I mean it went to the brink. But I thought they were absolutely toast after that 18 inning loss.
Yeah, then we saw Trey Savage have one of the best
Yeah.
starts as well in that series. It was absolutely incredible. Yeah, going into Game 7, I think a lot of us have finally recovered from the World Series loss. Getting there at least, maybe not fully. But Game 7, 2 outs away. From a baseball fan perspective, from you as a guy who played in this league and who's watched baseball your whole life, how did that feel? Seeing Kirk's bat break on that last
Yeah.
on in the double play, and just seeing the Dodgers run out and Jays fans defeat. What was that like as not just someone who works for the Blue Jays, but just as a fan?
I'd be the first to tell you that as a broadcaster and what we do, I purposely try not to get too close to players and coaches. And I do that for a reason. I have to be objective in my role. I have to criticize at times. I get it. And if somebody has an issue, they can bring it up with me, but I'm down on the field every day. But I try not to create that because I don't want to be so close that I'm not doing my job properly by being more objective. Now, this year was pretty easy with the way they went because it seemed like even when I was filling in for Buck, like most of July there, and it's like every open that we did, it's positive because they're just finding ways to win. It was unbelievable. And when you look at how all that went down, it was just like the part that probably was gutting me, and maybe it did show post game, but those guys, I almost felt like they were brothers of mine that
Yeah,
I
me
felt
too.
so bad for those players and even the coaches, these guys, the time, the energy, the hours that they put in, but more because of what a special year it was. Like after that 18 inning loss, they win 2 more games, they come home. Like this season was too special for it to end this way. It shouldn't have ended this way. It wasn't supposed to end this way. There's no way it can end this way. So I was gutted for the players and the coaches. That's the first time I really felt that kind of link. And whether it's right or wrong, it was there.
It's
That
real.
emotion and
Yeah.
attachment was there because we've been covering these guys for 7 months. And the stories, like, you just throw any name you want out, and I'll guarantee you there is a positive story or segment we did on
100%.
that guy. Everybody. I've never seen a team so deep in terms of contributions. And I still say to this day, that's why it was so special.
Yeah.
I've played on teams, that 1990 team I played in West Palm Beach with
Mhm.
Felipe Alou. That team we called ourselves a bunch of suspects. They sent most of the prospects to that middle A ball level or to double A. We were in the Florida State League. We were all the suspects, not the big draft picks. And we won like 94 games that year, lost the championship to the Vero Beach Dodger, Mike Piazza and Eric Young and those guys. That team we had was kind of like that. And what happens is when the bottom rung 13th guy on the lineup comes up and hits a game-winning hit, your bottom rung pitcher of the bullpen that hasn't pitched in a week because he's been getting shelled comes in and saves the game in extra innings. Just you couldn't make half of it up. Those are the special. That's as close to what I saw in the Blue Jays team this year that I ever was a part of. Clearly on a different level, but that's why you felt that. That's why you felt that about this team because everybody felt like they were a key contributor and a big part of it because they were.
Yeah. 100%. Everyone was. And yeah, the thing that got me a lot was Ernie crying in the locker room. I just like,
Oh,
every time I would see the clip, I would be like, nope, can't watch it, haven't been able to watch the highlights yet. Even like Bo's home run, I can't watch, but it'll be with us forever as Blue Jays fans or as a Blue Jays broadcaster. But I always try to find the positive in listen, it's sports and we have other sports to watch. Thankfully, the Raptors, as I said before, the Raptors are doing well, but nothing will ever top this 2025 season. I'm hoping that the 2026 season can be somewhat as special as this, but no question that the group of guys, as you said, everyone has a story, like a Barger, like an Ernie, like a Nathan Lucas, like a Davis Schneider, like everyone has a story of why they shouldn't have been there, and they were. So what a special year. As a fan, I went to 11 games this year, and they won all 11 games. I
you should have season tickets next year.
trust, please, like Blue Jays, if you guys see this, Rogers, like send me, please. I went to 8 regular season games, and then I went to 3 postseason games. Game 1 of the ALDS, Game 6 of the ALCS, and Game 1 of the World Series. So I'm a good luck charm somehow, but Like, no matter what, the crowd was electric. Everyone was loving it. And there's nothing like Rogers Center, there's nothing like being there.
It's true. What the Blue Jays have done. I try to take an opportunity to say this every time. What the Blue Jays have done to that stadium, but you know what else they do? The ceremonies or opening day, Canada Day, postseason game, the flags, the military, the anthems, and everything. The most special thing I thought throughout most of those playoffs, and of course in the World Series, is when you hear 40 plus thousand people singing "O Canada," and it's basically drowning out the singer. And I say that with the utmost respect and to our fans, but it's special, man. Oh my goodness, such special moments. And as you know, you've heard all the comments. The players feel it, and what the Blue Jays have done creating this, and that's why I said, losing the way they did, devastating, of course. So we know it could go one of two ways. They can go right back and get close and hopefully win it next year. That's the plan, right? Or, guys just don't have the same seasons. Like a lot of players will tell you, it's hard to get there. Even when you have a great season and get to the playoffs, it's hard to make that run and get all the way to the World Series, let alone winning it. Now, what I do think will always be true is that culture that they've created, it doesn't matter who they lose or who they bring in. The core will be there to make sure anybody that comes in, it's going to be like that. I am sure we'll have the same conversations again next year about, quote, how great these guys are. The difference is, can they perform the same way? Like I've just never seen so many complementary pieces contribute the way they did. Like, can Nathan Lucas still be as effective? Can Ernie be as effective? David Schneider. I mean, the list can go on and on. But so many guys, can they all still be as effective? And go get him, David Popkins and his staff. Do it again.
Please. All right. I've kept you on long enough. I appreciate you being here talking all this amazing stuff with broadcasting and Blue Jays and your own career here. To end it off, man, I have a lot of notes here, but I gotta end it off. How can the Jays, or you know what? I have a couple maybe. How can the Jays carry this fire next year? Even, let's say we lose a Bobby Bichette. Let's say we do. How should the fans go into the new year feeling excited about this team? Because as you said, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if the team is going to have that fire again. How can they keep that momentum again?
I don't think there'll be any question at all that they're going to have the fire because of what I just said. Regardless of who's gone and who comes in, that culture, that's a culture. That's in a clubhouse right now, and that's not going anywhere. A few minor exemptions where guys are gone now, but anybody they bring in, it's buy-in. And John Schneider did a heck of a job of that this year, and his coaches of buy-in, being convinced you this is what's best for you, for us as a team. This is how we do things, and whoever comes in here has got to buy in. I don't think anybody will come in that doesn't do that. So that part of it, I think, is the easy part. Okay. I think the hardest part is for fans. Now the expectations are up here. Last spring, I don't know where your expectations were, but I remember some of the conversations I had, and I'm kicking myself right now.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we weren't, right? And then they got off to that April was blah, whatever. So we're kind of thinking, yeah, now you're starting to talk about people's jobs, and it's like, oh man, this could go sideways in a hurry. But I think now coming in this year, the expectations are going to be high. But what I would urge everyone is to just relax if April doesn't go well. Yes. It's a 6-month season. And I understand that not all games are created equally, because the ones later in the season matter more because there aren't as many left on your schedule. But let's just look big picture. And if you have a bad April, you can recover. It's the AL East. I know it's a tough division. Other teams will probably be getting better. I get all those lines, but it's baseball. If we've learned anything, it's like relax, be patient. Now, hey, when June and July rolls around and you're 10 games under 500, now you've got a different conversation. But you don't anticipate that happening at all. But I think go in with your high expectations. Have fun with this team that came this far from winning a freaking World Series. I mean, so enjoy that part of it. Enjoy the fact that what the Blue Jays are doing. I mean, thank ownership for this payroll. Like, not many people talk about that. And I mean, me saying it doesn't mean much. I work for Rogers, all that stuff. But it's like, seriously, folks, top 5 payroll in baseball. And whether you think they should be there or not, or the fact that they're there, well, they should be. Well, they are, though. Top 5 payroll in baseball. They're up there now with the Yankees and all these teams. Like, this isn't the AL East now with, the Yankees and Red Sox spend big. You'll never be able to compete with them. Those days seem to be over. So, it started with, of course, Vladdy, but what they've done investing the way they have. And do they have moves to make? Absolutely. I mean, Pitching's always an issue. We know that. But that's one thing that I think that they're maintaining. So spending the money to get good players and then the people that are in place right now to create that same culture again, that's the part I wouldn't worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stick with what you said, patience. I'm gonna have patience going into next year because we all jump so quick on teams. Have patience because we had it this year and there was a turning point. Like I was at the Canada Day game and I think that was true. Yeah, I know. Very lucky. I've been to some big games and that was the true turning point.
But the whole series, right? That whole series was the turning point. Yeah.
100%. So, and it took time. It took time for everyone to get their tools going and for the bullpen to fix some stuff and whatever. Vladdy, I know, had an off year, but then obviously the postseason had one of the greatest postseasons of all time. Patience is what I'm going to go with. So I appreciate you saying that because I think it's very helpful.
Well, and when I said that word, now you got me thinking too. And you remember the Bo Bichette home run in Texas? We've talked about it several times in our broadcast. That was back at the end of May. It was a horrible road trip. They were down in Tampa. It couldn't have gone worse. I think they scored 6 runs all week. So Bo hits the pinch hit homer. And I remember us referring to that on the broadcast several times. Is that one point that it's like, okay, that got them going. So then June rolls around. Well, I'll be honest with you. Like you talk about patience. It was end of June. It was All-Star break. It was late July, and I was still saying I need to see more. Mm-hmm. I need to see more from this lineup. I don't know if they can sustain this. I need to see it. And all of a sudden, it was like August, mid-August, late August. And I remember laughing with Dan in the broadcast booth one day. I said, I finally got to raise my hand and say, okay, that's a long sample. They've been doing it for 3.5 months. Like you're just waiting. I kept waiting for it to come back. So instead of that negative vibe, maybe just the patience is a good word because it's a little positive. Wait for it to turn. But what they did, it was I'll admit, I wasn't buying in until really late. And I kicked myself for that. I was probably wrong in that regard, but they did it. Yeah. And I mean, how could you not believe in what that offense did, right? I think other teams are now trying to emulate them.
Exactly. Yeah. I said in June that the Jays were special, and I was told all my comments were, "You're crazy. You know what you're talking about." I'm really happy that I was.
You should be an analyst.
This is my audition right now. All right, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and talk about so much stuff. I didn't even ask you about. Hold on. One more thing. I know I keep on saying. It's a really rainy day in Windsor right here. I don't have any outdoor stuff to do. I'm locked inside. I don't do this to most people where I keep on saying, okay, one more, but I just feel like I'm keeping you in. One more. Where did your love for socks come from? Because I'm such a sock person. I love funny, crazy, exciting socks. Where did that come from? Because I love it. I would say it was motivated by my wife. She always bought me socks and fun. She's always loved fun socks. So that was all pretty cool. But my daughter-in-law, Emily Savard, told me that you should start something like on Insta with like your socks. You should have so she kind of like mapped this thing out, this Siddall sock series. And I'm looking at her going, I don't mind taking the pictures, but can I just send it to you and you can do the posting and stuff, the emojis and all that? Like I don't have time for all that. She's laughing, saying, no, it's got to come from you. So she talked me into this, obviously, and here we are. And now I've created this sock series that's gone kind of crazy. So, and then I've got the one Gertex company sending me Blue Jay socks, and it's hilarious. You are a sock icon. Sock icon, yeah. So, well, I have to thank her for that, and I still might get her doing it because it's still it's a little much for me. I'm okay on the device, I like it. It works well. It all works well, but I love it because I'm a sock person. I have Pop Tart socks, I have SpongeBob socks, Oreo socks, football socks. I'm a big sock person too, so I love it. But Joe, really appreciate you coming on. I really loved this conversation, hearing everything you have to say about everything that you've been through with your career and your life. And I'm a big fan of you already, and definitely a bigger fan now. So I appreciate it a lot. That's very kind of you, Jaclyn. It's a pleasure to join you. All right, everyone. That's going to do it on today's episode. Jays fans, we're going to get through it. We got it. Make sure to like the episode if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all. Bye-bye.